Just when you think you know everything that's going on in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., this episode happens. Hey guys, it's Kevin Games for Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Season 3, Episode 8, Many Heads, One Tail. And damn, guys, I mean, seriously, this episode was amazing. Really, let me just get out of the way. This was an amazing episode. I absolutely loved it. But what I love the most about this episode is that this is the kind of episode that you think you know what's going on in the show, and then this episode happens and completely changes pretty much everything you thought about the show, and I love that. I think everything about this episode really was amazing and really showed us that what we thought was going on is really not what's going on. And like I said, I think that's very interesting the way they set that all up. I definitely really love that about this episode. And overall, guys, this was definitely one of the best episodes so far. Probably one of the best episodes in the entire show. I mean, it was such a unpredictable episode, and it was a lot. It really had everything that made the show great. It was dark. It was also really fun as well. There were some really fun moments in this episode that I will get into. But let's just get into this episode. Definitely really loved it. And I I know that they said that, the guy that plays Grant said that there's going to be a Captain America Winter Soldier like twist. And if this is not that twist, I don't know what's going to top it, because I honestly don't know what could top it after this. But let's just get into it. And right away we get this great scene with Gideon and Grant. And as we know, Grant's kind of acted like the guy that's on the up and up, that the guy that is the head of Hydra. Everyone listens to Grant, everyone listens to what he does. But then you have Gideon, who is almost like a mentor to Grant, and really seems like he knows what he's doing. And he explains to Grant how the octopus is one of the greatest symbols of Hydra. They're speaking over dinner, which includes an actual octopus, and Gideon knows that Grant is looking for Von Strucker's family vault, said to Hydra's greatest power, and that's kind of why he thinks that Grant recruited him, because he's looking for the vaults. And Gideon says that it doesn't exist. There is no vault. And Grant doesn't believe him. He wants to think that there is a vault out there. He feels like Gideon purposely sacrificed Werner, leaving Gideon control the vault because, Gideon wants the upper hand. And this was very interesting. I mean, you really don't know if you can trust Gideon or not. And Gideon becomes a lot more important in this episode than you think. But Gideon then exits. A group of men enter, attack Grant, and Grant takes them out and interrogates the ones who remain alive. And that was crazy. I mean, who are all these men? Why are they attacking him? We don't know, and I definitely really love that. A lot of uncertainty in this episode, and I thought that was really great. Um, so as we know, at the end of last week's episode, which really was not that memorable, the most memorable thing about it, of course, was that twist with Rosiland at the end, that she is working with Hydra. And this episode, that really comes to a halt. Everything going on with Rosalind and Coulson really comes to a halt, and I love that. We see Andrew's being hauled away to ATCU's containment, and Mac notices Rosalind physically comforting Coulson. He really does not look happy about it. He seems honestly like he's kind of disturbed by it. It's really interesting. So Fitz then yells at someone for dropping a priceless manuscript. He explains to Jemma that he's brought in every volume on symbolic iconography he could find, hoping to find someone on the ram's head symbol on the castle door and Will's sleeve. Because obviously, again, he wants to find out, where they can find Will, how they can save him. Again, what I love about this episode, one, Fitz and Jemma probably get the closest they've ever gotten in this episode. We will, of course, get into that because huge stuff happens between them here. But again, Fitz is just doing whatever he can to help out Jemma. And Daisy then checks in with Lincoln, and they talk about their kiss and their relationship. I will admit that in terms of chemistry and, scenes, their scenes are definitely the weakest. Daisy and Lincoln, I think, are very good friends, but I really don't want them to turn them into lovers, which I don't think they're going to. I don't think they're going that way. I hope they don't, because I'll just say this. They don't really have romantic chemistry, okay? And I think it's kind of the point. I think they're trying to show that Lincoln might have feelings for Daisy, but she might not, and they talk about their kiss and their relationship, and she reminds him that he can only stay at the base permanently if he's part of Coulson's game plan. Because, he really didn't seem like he was agreeing with Coulson. I like that Daisy says, look, you gotta listen to Coulson. Even though Daisy's clash with Coulson, she's realizing that, if you don't listen to Coulson, you're out. It's really that what it comes down to. Although Daisy and Coulson have, like I said, this father-daughter relationship, father-daughter kind of partnership, and I think that's why Daisy has continued to stay there, also because she just as powerful as Coulson. Lincoln really is not, and I like seeing Lincoln happy here. He says, he's happy here, he's gonna listen, he's gonna try to do the best he can. I like seeing that, definitely. So, Mac then goes to Coulson, and this was definitely one of Mac's best episodes. I mean, Mac definitely is a character that I don't really feel is underused per se, but never really has gotten a lot of time to shine, and this is a very good example of that. In fact, everyone in this episode, I think, really got some sort of big moment, which I really loved. So Mac voices his concern about how close Coulson has grown to Rosalind, And he's really not happy about it. He feels like Coulson is making a connection, and it's not a good idea. He really doesn't even know if they can trust Rosiland, and Coulson says it's not his business. It's not really his business, but honestly, it is. I mean, this is someone that Coulson wants them to work with against his discretion, against their discretion. He did not consult them about this. Mac has a right to be a bit upset about this. I can understand why Mac is upset. I mean, I think definitely Mac has a right, and he's hoping that he can trust Rosalind, but the rest of them will go behind her back. He really doesn't think that they can trust Rosalind. He doesn't think it's a good idea, and I like that Mac is telling him, hey, this is not a very smart idea what you're doing here. And Mac really was just giving him friendly advice here. He wasn't trying to be rude. He's just telling him, look, the rest of the team don't know about her. You should probably inform them, because if you don't tell them, it could end up really bad for you. And I like that he was just voicing his concern. Really good scene there. But obviously, Coulson's kind of grown too attached to Rosalind. You really see that in this episode. So Coulson announces Operation Spotlight, which is just awesome. Operation Spotlight, this basically gets the entire team to work together in the episode, which we see sometimes, but we don't see enough of it. And this episode really proves we need more of these full team group missions, because they're awesome, okay? You get to see the awesome spy stuff in this episode. You get to see some really fun scenes, just some really great, and some really shocking stuff as well, but it really is what made this episode so great, is Operation Spotlights. So they're going to shine light in every dark corner in the ATCU. So what he decides to do is Coulson is going to interrogate Rosalind. He's going to talk to her. Basically, Daisy's going to be doing all the tech stuff, obviously, because she's good with that. And Grant and Bobby are going to be going undercover. Fitz and Jemma are obviously going to be looking up all the info. And then we get to Melinda. She requests Lincoln, which is a surprise, because she should be upset with Lincoln. Lincoln's surprised because he's upset that she's not pissed with him for doing what he did to Andrew, obviously. Because obviously, she was a bit pissed at what happened with Andrew last week, and now it seems like she's trying to come back for that. And, he wants to know about the ATCU's agenda for the Inhumans and how many they have and how close they are to finding a cure. And I thought it was interesting the way that Melinda wanted to work with Lincoln, to see, basically, see where his cards are. And especially someone like Melinda, who's probably one of the most, and physical people, I don't really know how to explain, but physical members of the group. I think it's really interesting that she chose Lincoln, because Lincoln is just, he's new, he doesn't really know what he's doing as well. So Grant continues to interrogate the man, and one of them finally reveals that the vault he's looking for is in Germany. So now Grant is thinking, shit, Gideon is not to be trusted, because clearly he told him there's not a vault, and then now he's being told it's in Germany. So, I don't know if these men are working with Grant. I kind of feel like they're setting him up on a wild goose chase. I really do. Because I do feel that Gideon wants the upper hand. You definitely can tell that. And especially at the end of this episode, definitely Gideon wants power. You can tell that here. So, Rosalind arrives for her tour of S.H.I.E.L.D.'s secret base. And she thinks she's just there for a general tour. You can really tell her that Coulson is not going to let her leave without answering some questions. So, he sweeps her phone before allowing her to turn it back on, nominally checking for intelligence gathering programs on her phone, because he really doesn't know what to think about her. He doesn't really know if he can trust her, and he's really taking Mac's advice very early. Max said, do you even really know her, which he really didn't. So instead, they download information from her phone, and they thought that Daisy hacked into the ATCU, but she didn't. She just downloaded information, and the tracker on Andrew's containment unit turns on, and Daisy can use it to track where the ATCU brought him, because they don't know where Andrew went, obviously. So, the ATCU calls the FBI for what they believe is a cybersecurity breach. Very smart of Daisy to do that, obviously, because, they think it's the FBI, really it's S.H.I.E.L.D., very smart stuff. But it is rooted to Mac, who says that they're dispatching agents, and those agents are Lance and Bobby in disguise, and, obviously, Lance and Bobby, you knew this wasn't going to go well, because we know before that Lance really doesn't have the most well-thought-out plans, and Daisy's whispering text-speak into their ears, and Coulson continues to give Rosalind a tour. She gets a call about the security breach, and she asks Coulson if the containment units scan the ATCU's network, and Coulson owns up to it. And she tells her tech man to play nice with the FBI, be very careful with what they do, and to trust the FBI, and I think that was smart of her to say that. And basically, she just wants to really know what's going on. And Jemma finds that the ram... Now, this is very interesting here. This is really a turning point in the episode here. Because Jemma finds that the ram head symbol is used in a blood sacrifice. So they're definitely starting to put together some clues as to what could happen to Will. And, they're starting to realize that obviously something is connected. Hydra definitely, something with ATCU that's connected to Will, and they don't really know what it is yet. So Grant flirts with this stewardess, then whispers something in her ear. He blows the hatch over Germany, pretty much blows up the plane. I mean, it was pretty crazy he just blew up the plane like that, but we don't know what he says to her. I mean, I think it's interesting what he said. I don't really know what he said to her, but definitely interesting stuff there. So Fitz traces the symbol back thousands of years, back to pagan devil myths, and Gemma's very slowly losing hope. She doesn't really think this is gonna work. They're pretty much just getting dead ends here. They're really not getting anything different. And Fitz is just trying to tell her, look, I want you to succeed. It's interesting that Fitz is trying to encourage her when he should honestly be really pissed at Gemma for her obviously sleeping with a man that wasn't him. I mean, he really doesn't have a reason to be upset with her necessarily, but it's interesting that he's the one encouraging her when she essentially was the one that wanted to do this. And Gemma's getting angry, tells him to stop doing all the right things, and storms out. And she really is tired of him doing all this stuff for her. I think it's mainly because I think she really does care about him, and she doesn't feel like he should be doing this. She wants him to be angry. He really hasn't shown that he's genuinely angry, and if he cares, he really needs to show it. Because obviously, if he really cared about her, he would have gotten pissed at her. He would have thrown a whole fit about it, and he has yet to do any of that, and that's why Gemma really doesn't believe any of this emotion, because it all just feels fake to her. It doesn't feel like he really cares. So Rosalind examines some of Coulson's retro spy gear, and Coulson reveals that he was studying history in college and accidentally uncovering S.H.I.E.L.D. influence when they recruited him, and that was definitely very interesting that we saw this. What I like here is that you can tell that Coulson is trying to be very open with Rosalind, so that way she will open up to him, because she's been very much a blank slate. She's revealed some stuff here and there, but she's been very secretive, and he doesn't want any more secrets. He wants to get stuff out of her, and I thought it was very smart what Coulson was doing here. So the ATCU allows Lance to access a terminal. Daisy gives him a command prompt to type in, and Lance hunts and pecks his way in. Daisy then sends in Melinda and Lincoln and forced to follow, and obviously Melinda clearly is leading this mission. Lincoln is just following her. He doesn't really know exactly what he's doing, and Matt gives Bobby directions to an enhanced specimen containment room in the building, and Daisy calls Bobby's phone, which Bobby uses as an excuse to leave and search the building, which I thought was very smart of her to do, obviously, because obviously they need to search the building, and just everything that Daisy did was very smart here. So May and Lincoln take off, and so basically Melinda and Lincoln, they take off, and Fitz then finds Jemma, and this is where we get the first really crucial scene in this episode. There are several crucial scenes, but this is definitely one of the biggest ones, and I knew this was coming, I gotta say, guys. I knew something like this was eventually gonna come. I didn't know what happened this early, but it really made sense in this episode. It really worked well here. The fact they focused on the whole team really worked well. So Fitz finds Jemma. She says she's mad at herself for roping him into this. She wishes he'd be angry. He finally breaks and says that he is. They have it out over how much time they lost because they were afraid to say anything. And, they really missed a lot of time together, and they really didn't do much about it. And Fitz asks if she loves Will, and she says she does. And it's very interesting that she said that, because, of course, she only has known the guy for a month, really. That's really how long she's known him, and obviously she was there for a long time with him, and he was really the only person there. And then we argue more, and they're arguing some more, and, it's interesting that he finally broke down. I like that he finally broke down to her. Then they finally kissed. Fitz finally kisses her. She kisses him back, and I was shocked when they finally kissed. But I think Fitz just finally realized, you know what? I gotta do it. I gotta kiss her. I gotta show her how I feel, because she wants him to show that he cares about her, and he's not, and that's how he does it. He kisses her, and I thought that was very smart of him. So Fitz says that they're cursed, and he backs away, and Jemma notices the symbol they were looking for in a book that fell open on the ground. And basically, this book, it's fallen on the ground. They don't really know why it's fallen on the ground, but it's on the ground, and obviously, there's something that is going on with the symbol. So Bobby continues making her way to the enhanced specimen containment area, and Daisy opens the door for her, and Gideon then enters a room with Andrew's containment, and this is where Gideon starts to play a really crucial role in this episode. Because, let me just say, everything they do with Hydra in this episode seems very far-fetched if you read about it, but the execution of it just worked really, really well. Everything, I'm going to say this. This is a story that could have easily been really far-fetched and really just not realistic and really not make a lot of sense. But because of the way it was done, I really felt it worked very, very well. Actually, really made a lot of sense when you think about it. So Gideon enters a room with Andrew's containment, and you realize right away that Gideon obviously is responsible for what's going on with Andrew. He tells Andrew that he advises the president's staff and that they're working with S.H.I.E.L.D. to help him. Now this is obviously bullshit. None of this is true. This is not really happening. Gideon notes that nobody has asked if Andrew ever wants treatment, and Andrew says that all they see is a killer. They seem to agree that S.H.I.E.L.D. has good intentions before methods. And this is interesting. The way that Gideon's trying to get Andrew to kind of turn against S.H.I.E.L.D. is very interesting, because it's true. S.H.I.E.L.D. really hasn't been the best to Andrew. They haven't really, seen what he's going through, and I thought that was definitely very interesting. Just the way that Gideon was kind of just getting Andrew against them was very smart and definitely very interesting. So one of the most interesting things about this episode. So Bobby says that Andrew isn't here. There are no Inhumans or evidence of cure research. She does find what looks like a stockpile of fish oil pills, and the fish oil, of course, back into play. So Lance continues to ramble to the ACTU men leave, and he then notices that Banks has arrived, and Daisy uncovers that the ATCU isn't citing the fish oil for a cure. They're forcibly administrating it to their employee. So they're trying to create new Inhumans, which this is very interesting. And obviously we know that this is Hydra that's doing this. This is not the ATCU. It's clearly Hydra that's responsible for all this. And, that's very interesting. We found they're trying to create new humans, but what they're trying to do, it really makes a lot of sense. I mean, right now it's kind of like, what's really going on here, but it really made a lot of sense at the end. So Coulson brings Rosalind to a containment room, and this scene was amazing, especially Clark Gregg and Constance Zimmer. They both were great in the scene, because this is where he tells her, I'm tired of your bullshit. I don't want to hear lies anymore. I don't want to hear you hiding stuff. You just need to reveal to me if I can trust you. And he tells her that she needs to convince him she's not Hydra, or she's never leaving this room, and he's going to leave her there until she finally, and basically this shows you that, look, I'm tired of your bullshit. You need to tell me the truth, and I'm not letting you leave this room until you tell me what's going on. So he tells her that his people are infiltrating her facility, and she admits that Andrew isn't being kept at the ATCU facility. So right away he can tell, maybe Mac was right. Maybe I should not be flirting with her. So Lincoln tries to get Melinda to talk to him and says he's not apologizing for bringing out Lash and Andrew. And Melinda says that she's been trying to figure out what to say to apologize to Lincoln for Andrew. And Lincoln says he should be thanking her. He did a good thing for her, honestly. And I kind of agree with Lincoln says. He was the one that made her aware of what was going on with Andrew. She really should not be mad at Lincoln, and I think it was smart that Lincoln said that, because it's true. He should be thanking her, because obviously she would not know what's going on with her husband right now if he would not have helped her out. So Daisy tells him that Bobby and Lance need extraction, and Bobby runs into trouble and calls for Lance in her briefcase. Lance has to run past Banks, and it's a really intense scene. You don't know what's going to happen here, and I really love this. And then we get to the really crazy stuff here. Coulson says he was tipped off to Rosalind because she knew about Tahiti. She admitted earlier that she didn't know anyone in S.H.I.E.L.D., which means she must have found out about the program from Hydra. So he can just tell, the way that Coulson was able to figure out everything that was happening with her was very smart. I mean, it really shows how, how educated Coulson is in this. So Coulson reveals what they know about enhanced specimen containment, and she says she knows nothing about it, that it is Malik's wing, and that Gideon gave her the Tahiti intel, basically confirming that she is working with Gideon, and I thought that was very interesting that we found that out. I really like that we found that out in this episode. So Lance reaches Bobby with the briefcase after she's won the fight. There are 3 more ATCU men enter. One is an Inhuman, levitates the guns on the ground, begins firing. Bobby pulls out her batons. They are magnetized to her bracelets, and she throws them, taking out the 2 non-Inhuman men. She takes out the Inhuman with some help from Lance. Rosalind then calls Banks, and he finds Bobby and Lance and helps them get out of the building where Melinda and Lincoln pick them up, and Grant busts into the vault. Gideon is waiting for him there, and obviously this was a very intense scene. I really love this scene between Gideon and Grant, because you don't know if Grant's just gonna, flat out kill this guy, really what's gonna happen here. But then I was thinking, Gideon seems to be just as powerful, and Gideon is impressed. Then basically he realizes that he wanted Grant dead because he poses a threat. Now he feels like Grant should be his second hand, and basically Gideon reveals that Hydra goes back further than the Red Skull. Now, that was really interesting when he said that, and I was wondering, are we about to see Red Skull flashbacks? We don't see that, that they're much older. He pulls out a container with a small stone that he says has been passed down for 100 generations. He says it was cut from a larger monolith, and that's a portal to another world, and that, of course, is the monolith. So now we know that they are the ones responsible for what happened with Jemma. This is extremely interesting. Just this reveal here, finding out that they are the ones responsible, is mind fucking. Honestly, that is a mind fuck right there. I mean, we knew they were obviously responsible for what was going on with ATCU, but now that we know they're responsible for pretty much everything that's been going on is awesome, and it really makes a lot of sense, obviously. I mean, if they clearly wanted to work, they've been working with Red Skull, they've had it, that's really what happened. That just fell into the wrong hands, and that's why this has happened here. And Rosalind reveals that she met, Gideon while he was consulting on a program at NASA, and Jemma knew she was going to say that and lays out what they found. So Jemma realizes that Will was pretty essentially played by Hydra pretty much. I think Will was played by Hydra. They clearly planned all this out, and it really does make a lot of sense what they're doing here. So Gideon tells Grant that thousands of years ago, as an inhuman who was born on the planet that was destined to rule it, it was sent through the portal to a distant planet, and Hydra was founded with the sole purpose of bringing the inhuman back, and Hydra has taken different shapes, the entity has been given different names, they send men through the portal to serve it, and now they're building an army for when the creature returns. And Gideon says they're very close and offers to help Grant get revenge, but S.H.I.E.L.D. brought someone back through the portal, and he needs to know how, because he doesn't really know how that was possible. So now we know what he really wants. He wants to know really what's going on here, and how they know what's going on through that portal, because clearly now he knows what's going on there. That would also make sense as to that man that helped him out in episode 2. I can't think of his name right now, but you guys know what I'm talking about. That man that helped him out. That would make sense as to how he knows about, because clearly Hydra's been around for a very long time. So that was just incredible. And then, of course, we get to the ending of this episode, where we find out even more of what's going on with Hydra. Andrew yells, saying he needs to talk to someone about what's been going on, because he doesn't know what's going on. Grant appears. Grant begins pumping mustard gas into Andrew's pod. Grant says they want to learn how to turn Lash on, and that's how the episode ends. So essentially, they want to create a big Inhuman army against S.H.I.E.L.D., which is very, very interesting, because clearly this is Daisy's group. She wants to train them. They wanted to use their biggest, goal and use it against them, which is very interesting the way they want to do that, and it really shows how powerful Hydra is. The thing I love about this so much, and the reason I think it works so well, is because Hydra seemed kind of secondary this season. It seemed like the ATCU was the real storyline, and now we're realizing, no, that was always part of this. Rosalind, Will, all part of Hydra. Everyone was fooled by Hydra, and I love it. And it really makes a lot of sense as to how this was thought out. And the fact that Gideon was the one doing all of this and not Grant is very, very interesting, because now Grant's no longer the leader. Gideon is clearly the leader now. He clearly is the one taking charge, and he's clearly done all the things that Grant hasn't known that he's done. And Grant all this time has thought he was the leader. And I really felt bad for Grant, obviously, because Grant's really, wanted this position. He's wanted to be the leader. He's wanted to be the one to take down S.H.I.E.L.D., and now he has he's the second in command to Gideon, which I'm sure he's honored about, but he clearly wanted to do this himself, and I honestly felt kind of bad for him, honestly. I thought that was definitely very interesting. But let's talk about what's really going to happen with this Inhuman army. How is this all going to work? I mean, clearly S.H.I.E.L.D. now knows what they're capable of, and they know what they're going to do. So they need to come up with some greater plan, which I have no idea how you come up with a plan and turn against them, honestly. Hydra is unstoppable after this. After this, I have no idea how you stop Hydra. I could not think of a way to do it. Honestly, I don't think it's possible. There has to be a way, obviously, but honestly, the way this episode ended, I don't really know how they're going to beat Hydra. It really doesn't, I don't really know, guys, I have to say. Definitely very interesting. Now, this whole thing with Will, what really happened here? Obviously, Will, does he have connections to Hydra? Does he know Hydra? Was he a part of Hydra? Was Jemma played by Will? I mean, there are a lot of possibilities as to what's going on here, and I think it's just made her storyline that much interesting. Now, Rosalind. Rosalind, I think, does genuinely care about Coulson. I honestly think she does, but clearly she's working for Hydra, so what is Coulson really going to do? Is he going to try to recruit her to S.H.I.E.L.D.? I could honestly see Coulson try to steer away from Hydra and get her to S.H.I.E.L.D., because he clearly cares about Rosalind. Even though now he knows he was played by her, I think he still does care about her. It's interesting what's going on there. And he definitely owes Mac an apology. Definitely he does. We're gonna have to see what happens with that. That's gonna be definitely very interesting. Are we gonna see the Red Skull? Because, Gideon's saying that the Red Skull was involved. Are we gonna see him? I feel like we are gonna see him on the show. We have to at some point. We definitely need to. Now let's talk about this whole situation with Fitz and Jemma. They have one of the most complicated situations going on right now, and it's just gotten more complicated, because not only has Jemma realized that this man she was with really wasn't a good man and really fooled her all along, but now she's kissed Fitz, and it's a really, might not have been might not have been a good man, and she really doesn't know him as well as she thought. But now she's kissed Fitz, and this has made things even more complicated for her, and I really don't know what Gemma's going to do to fix all this. We'll have to see what's going to happen there, because that definitely is going to be very interesting. I loved all the scenes, like I said, with the team, Operation Spotlight. Awesome stuff there. What's going to happen, with this whole mission? I mean, really, what's Daisy gonna do when she reacts to this? I mean, is she gonna be able? Are all the Secret Wars gonna eventually turn against her? I mean, we know we're getting Secret Wars. We know that's coming up, so we'll have to see what happens with that. I like seeing Melinda and Lincoln make amends. Do you think that Melinda should, thank Lincoln? I honestly think she should. I think Lincoln definitely has a point there, and I think it definitely is very interesting, with what he said to her. So I would say that maybe she should forgive him. I kind of feel like she should. We'll have to see, though, what happens with that. But I have no idea what's going to happen the rest of the season, and I love that. I don't want to know what's going to happen the rest of the season, because they've just made the season a whole lot more interesting than it was. Not that it wasn't already a great episode, but that reveal is incredible. And now that we know that the creature is an Inhuman, that creature that was out there with Will, that is an Inhuman. I love finding that out. I mean, that was incredible that we know that. We know that this isn't just him hallucinating. There is an actual creature out there. They weren't going crazy. There is a creature, and I love that we know that, because I was starting to think maybe they're just going crazy and maybe something just weird is going on with them. But no, this is actually happening. Hydra played them. Hydra fooled them, and my biggest question was, why Jemma? Why would they do this to Jemma? Why did they intentionally mean for this to happen to Jemma? Did Jemma just ruin their plan? Did they have something more to do? I feel like this was initially planned for, like, Coulson, but Jemma just got in the way. That's kind of what I feel is going on with that, but I'm not really sure. We'll have to see what that's all about, because that's really the only thing we don't know, is why did they specifically pick Jemma? Did they specifically pick her, or did she just get in their way? Because, again, we don't really know what they decided to do with that, and I like that. I like that mysteriousness. But now we have to wait 2 weeks, unfortunately, which really sucks. The bad thing is we have 2 episodes left, for this half of the season, that is. Which is fine. I'm fine that we have 2 episodes left. That's fine, I guess. I mean, I'm really ready for the finale, definitely. I have no idea how they're going to top it in the mid-season finale, because, again, like I said, they claim there's going to be a huge twist in the mid-season finale. But how the hell do you top this twist? Seriously, how the hell do you top that Hydra was behind everything? I don't understand that, how you do that. And I think this has also changed some of the Marvel movies as well. I mean, who knows what else they've been behind? They could have been behind a lot of things. They could have been behind Ultron's demise, Ultron turning against S.H.I.E.L.D. for all we know. They could have been behind a lot of things. It's really interesting. I'm really interested in seeing if they do more with this. Let me know what you guys thought of this episode. This was an amazing episode. I was so just impressed by it. I was so shocked. It was really gripping. I absolutely loved it. And I will see you guys in my next one, which will be for Scream Queens, which I know you guys have been waiting for. And I will see you guys for that. Okay, bye.